This summer started off as a real-time attempt to make a guide on how to study for the MCAT. However, this turned into the summer I fell back in love with science, revived my drive to make music, and learned to be myself. For those of you looking for a video that can get you into the 100th percentile, I unfortunately cannot give you that. But if you're someone who's unsure about your path, your ability to go after what you want, or someone who just really likes coming-of-age stories, look no further. This is the summer that I studied for the MCAT. I knew from the start of my freshman year that I wanted to spend the summer before my junior year taking courses that would allow me to graduate a term early, and I wanted to spend the summer after taking my biochem series and before my senior year studying for the MCAT. I personally needed a concentrated amount of time to simply focus on one thing in order to perform to the best of my ability. By the time that I reached the beginning of my summer, I realized I needed to focus on a little bit more than just the MCAT. I needed to focus on myself as well. This wasn't just the summer I was studying for the MCAT. It was summer being 21. This was my first summer living on my own, and this ended up being the first summer in 3 years that I started writing consistently. In the lead up to this summer, I wrote 3 songs, and the last time that I wrote 3 songs in a condensed period of time was in high school, and I showed them to absolutely no one except my high school art teacher, Hi Sasha. The reason why I felt like I had to give up music is because it just felt so contrary to what I was moving forward in my life to doing, and I kind of felt as though I had to accept the impending doom of being a STEM major and being a statistic, but that is not at all the case, but it was very easy to fall into that line of thinking. Even before getting to college, I felt like I was already 3 years behind. I didn't have research experience in high school. I didn't do much shadowing. I still haven't done nearly as much shadowing as my peers have. And it felt like this high mountain to climb in order to get schools to actually want me. I realized I didn't have to give up all the things that I love because they're actually tools that make me feel safe and whole. And I think especially as someone who wants to become a primary care physician, for me to go into a field saying that I want to give people a space to do the things that they care about and choose the options that they want to in order to achieve their version of optimal health, and for me not to do the same thing for myself, it was kind of hypocritical. I feel like a lot of people say medical schools want people who are real people to be doctors. You know, I'm gonna take a leap of faith on that one. In order for me to actually do well on this exam, I had to change my mindset. And here's that proof of me changing that for myself.
Think about the ways where it's like, I like this, and give yourself the space to do that. Because if no one else will give you space, then why not give yourself it?
The first step was accepting that I need to take care of myself and my needs as a person before I could really dedicate my time towards the next step in pursuing a career where I take care of other people. The second step, however, was figuring out how to do that. Set 3 goals for myself this summer. Actually learn how to cook, actually start going to the gym, and actually study for the MCAT. Very straightforward goals. But when you go from having all of your time being taken up to having no obligation to anyone but yourself, it is very easy to kind of just
woke up from a nap
all day. So in order to do that, I needed to have a conversation with myself. I think talking to yourself is a beneficial tool. Setting time aside, being like, here's what I do, here's what I want, here's what I need, how can I work within the way that I operate in order to achieve success.
So while I do have the original footage of me having a conversation with myself and figuring out what actually worked for me, there's only so much that I can do in order to tame my train of thought. So I'm just gonna tell you how I spent most of my days. I woke up each morning and went to the gym. In the morning, there were absolutely no expectations of myself to think, and I could also use that as an opportunity to like get up and move rather than stay in bed, because that was really one of the key challenges when it came to the first portion of my summer, trying to figure out how to get myself motivated. After the gym, I would go make myself some food. I got a subscription to HelloFresh, not sponsored by the way, but you know, if this blows up, HelloFresh, let me know. Again, this was an opportunity for me to cut out the amount of thinking that I would have to do and learn the most possible while also not making myself overwhelmed by the amount of choices that I had. HelloFresh was really nice to be able to be like, there's already the ingredients. All I have to do is just follow the instructions and put them together. That was a good way for me to like build routine. Establishing a consistent daily routine allowed me to be able to dedicate my energy towards the most important thing, studying. Here's a portion of the video that I feel like most, if not all of you, have been waiting for. The resources that I personally use to help me study for the MCAT. First, if not the most important resource, practice exams. This is really the most surefire way that you will understand how to not only apply the knowledge that you need for the MCAT, but also how the test is written. In order to get a grasp on where you need to fill in the gaps in your knowledge, whether or not that's content-based or exam-based, I would highly, highly recommend taking a diagnostic exam. I took mine through Blueprint. It is a free diagnostic exam, and you also get a free study plan associated with it. I will note that the modules within that study plan, some of them are made free to you, and some of them are only available through getting a Blueprint subscription, so keep that in mind. I only really spent money on the actual exam and buying the AAMC practice exams. I utilize these towards the end of my prep, but I would highly encourage you to take a practice exam every week in the month leading up to your exam and take your last practice exam a week before. Anything that you try to do in the week leading up to your MCAT will just make you be burnt out. In order to understand the question format of the MCAT and how answer choices are crafted, I utilized Jack Weston and UWorld. Now, the reason why I had access to UWorld is because my friend who was also studying for the MCAT at the same time as me had a subscription to it. So if you have a friend who is also taking the MCAT, I highly encourage you to work together. Based on my experience between Jack Weston and UWorld, UWorld felt more similar to the AAMC question style, but Jack Weston, not only was it free, but the daily practice passages could be used as an opportunity to brush up on your content knowledge while learning the question formatting. It really just depends on what you are willing to spend and put money down for, but both are really good resources. Speaking of Jack Weston, I also utilized their live review sessions. If you are a person who benefits more from class review time rather than solo studying, this is a great resource to use in order to understand high yield content. I would sign up for these on a week by week basis, but I believe that they give the schedule a month in advance. Typically the workshops are around 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so if that doesn't work with your schedule, you can also have access to the live recordings. As long as you registered and were present for a bit of it, you can access those recordings by signing up with a free advising session through Jack Weston. I thought it was really helpful in terms of getting more knowledge about resources that were available, such as the learning outcomes sheet. I don't know if that's exactly what it's called, but it essentially goes through the key topics of the MCAT and the extent to which you should know about these topics. I think that this is a really great place to work from if you are not sure as to what you want to focus on, or if you know where the gaps in your content knowledge lie, but you're not exactly sure what specifically you need to know. Another general resource that I used in order to understand to what extent I needed to know about topics were the Kaplan workbooks. Now, I got these for free because I borrowed them from my friend. I thought that they were really useful in terms of helping me build my content knowledge, and they do a good job of giving you easily digestible figures, passages, and practice questions in order to understand the content. I liked having resources in physical form because I was able to bring them anywhere with me and I didn't have to worry about Wi-Fi. At the end of the day, all of these resources are really only helpful if you're finding ways to make yourself absorb the knowledge. Like I said before, I benefit from physical versions of things, but here are some of the key components of making self-made resources. Throughout my practice, I utilized 3.5 different methods of taking notes. The first one was a learning outcomes journal. A learning outcomes journal is an opportunity for you to reflect on how you can ensure that you answer a question correctly again, or make sure that you don't answer it incorrectly next time. I initially started off my learning outcomes journal on Google Sheets. For me, online was initially helpful because I was able to command find and look at the breakdown between topic areas and the frequency that I would get questions in that area correct. However, during the midpoint of my practice is when doing handwritten learning outcomes and explanations for myself made those self-reflections really stick. For formatting, a good place to start would be noting the subject area or section that the question is covering, the topic in that subject, the difficulty of the question, the AAMC content category, the mistake that was made, a strategy to prevent you from making that same mistake next time, whether or not you got it right, and a link to the source or at least a note of where you received this question from. Later in my practice, I really only noted what resource I was using and what strategies to utilize for each question, but this is a good place to start in your MCAT prep. The second type of note-taking that I did was in my study guide notebook. I mainly only put tables, figures, or acronyms that I could refer back to not just in my practice, but while taking practice exams and even the actual test. The way that I created this study guide notebook is by doing actual notes. My notes sourced from either doing the Kaplan workbooks or live sessions through Jack Weston. However, my 0.5 version of taking notes are when I was not necessarily doing my best to put them in a nice, visually organized format immediately. Not everything has to be pretty, but the act of making it pretty and organizing it into categories or figures that you understand is going to make this 0.5 version more helpful. Because this summer wasn't just an MCAT journey, but a personal one too, I needed 2 additional resources. 1, a journal in order to write down my daily to-do list, things that I wanted to do personally, and my songwriting journal, allowing myself a physical space to collect my thoughts and note any creative insights that I had. For me, writing the idea down and being able to come back to it later is a lot better than me actively trying to hold on to it. With my personal MCAT toolbox, I was able to accomplish all of the goals that I set for myself this summer. I was working out regularly, I was cooking basically every other day, and I was studying really consistently. If I didn't exactly follow my schedule, I at least forced myself to go outside and study somewhere else, whether or not that was me studying at the library or me even studying at a beer garden. I was able to motivate myself and find ways to really do these things consistently and make a habit out of all the things that I said I would, even songwriting. I essentially use songwriting as a reward for myself. The consistency made me feel good, but what made me feel even better was seeing the outcome of creating habits. Hello, I come back to you again. I think it's been like a month since I attempted to make anything, but I'm feeling inspired today, and so I figured that for the sake of self-development, I should probably record it. This is a science experiment about me trying to be more confident. Okay. I like the way that up to the pre-chorus sounds. So there's at least that. I have no idea how to write choruses, but I'm going to work on it.
Please say my name and the one more puzzling goodbyes at the front door.
I want it to be something that's like you're able to sing along, because I like doing that at concerts, and I feel like more people need to do it. So if it's like then that means it has to be like a simple chorus, but then it also has to be like memorable.
Getting dressed on the floor, unswept is the strand that hits your shoulders from me. Or was it left by someone who could get you on your knees, begging please? Empathy only happens to the mirror that you see. I don't understand how you could hurt me. Not saying please, please, please don't let me go. And I don't understand how you desert me. Not saying please, please, once upon the door. Only you got it.
Now, I don't have any footage of me from the day that I took the MCAT because I was more prioritizing taking the MCAT. But prepare yourself for the most anticlimactic MCAT results reaction video. Spoiler alert, I did not do as well on the actual MCAT as I did on my last practice exam. But, you know. Okay, hi, I'm not feeling or sounding the greatest, but I think my MCAT scores are up. I'm hoping at least like 510. Okay, so I didn't get that, but I got above a 500. The thing that I was so confused about, though, I scored in the 75th percentile for Chem and Phys, which I'm genuinely shocked by. If you've made it this far into the video, you will realize that I kind of don't have a lot of footage to make studying fun. This is going to be more so a reflection type of moment. It's interesting to watch back at all the stuff that I've edited together so far. I feel like I am a completely different person, and that makes me happy for sure, just because I knew that I was going into this summer with the intention of kind of figuring out how to be more comfortable in just life in general. At the beginning of the summer, I reached a point where I kind of realized that I have to be more comfortable just existing as myself. Up until that point, I think there was just like a lot of insecurity that stopped me from really sticking my head into opportunities and stuff. I really don't know like a proper way to explain this, so this is just word vomit at this point. I'm really glad that I took the time over this summer to use the MCAT as a vessel to practice doing those things. I am really banking on the fact that at the end of the day, like, it won't just be like my test scores, it'll be me who gets me into med school. Over this past year, I've noticed where I could have been more of an advocate for myself, where I could have taken the opportunity to go after something that I wanted. And this is all just like very broad. I think that makes me editing me a nightmare. There was so much more like audience interaction throughout the process of making this specific video, but none of it to me is usable because all of my takeaways are so broad. So I apologize for this. I am purely recognizing the fact that this kind of thing that I'm doing is all very archival, but I think it's good that I took the time to try to put this together. I just wanted proof that I had done something. I wanted proof that, you know, despite how mundane my circumstances are on paper, I did experience a lot and I did learn a lot about myself that will help me kind of be a better person, not just to other people, but to myself. I think being 4 months removed from the MCAT at this point has really given me the space to recognize how much like taking that time for myself over the summer meant to me, and how much it's helped me a lot in just doing the things that I have been. And so I think it's important to recognize the wins that I have, because if no one else is giving me the space for it, then I should at least give it to myself. So, yeah. What a great takeaway. And I didn't have bangs. If I had a minute to give myself a takeaway from this summer, I think it would be the discomfort of trying is a lot more freeing than the comfort in making yourself small. That's something that I'm gonna have to keep reminding myself of, but it's a good reminder. So I impart that to you as well. Thank you for watching. If you would like beautiful collages, some vague tidbits about my life, updates in real time about what I'm doing, where I am, and what shows I'll be playing at, you can go to my Instagram. If you'd like to see any sneak peeks of songs that I may or may not continue with, me just doing silly, funny things, you can go to my TikTok. Thank you for watching. Take care.